Hello and welcome to the Tea and the Butty podcast with me, Dominic.
And me, Erica.
And on today's episode, I'm pretty much going to be doing all the talking, as Erica just informed me. We're going to be talking about voting in the UK and how it works and all that kind of stuff. It's similar to voting over here, but, you know, there might be some differences.
It's really not.
Well, how isn't it? I mean, people go to a place and they vote and that's it.
Well,
you know?
the actual process of voting.
The actual process of voting, yeah.
But as far as voting, who you're voting for or whatever, you know, that's not the same at all.
Well, it's definitely a different system over here. I mean, over here, what is it?
Well, you vote for the person.
You vote for the person, yeah. Like in a general election, say, not local election.
Mm-hmm.
You vote for the person.
Right. You vote, people run.
Yeah.
You can run for whichever party. And, I mean, you can declare yourself a Democrat or a Republican, but that doesn't stop you from being able to vote for, let's say, a Democrat for president, but maybe a Republican for governor or something like that. You can still
Well,
vote.
I mean, I think you can do... I don't know if there's many people who do that in the UK who vote for, I'm going to vote Conservative for local government, but, you know, I want actually Labour in a general election, or Liberal Democrats, say, you know.
Right. But like you just said, you're voting for the party rather
voting
than
for the party rather than the person.
Britain.
Yeah, I mean, as time goes on, it's kind of a case of, like, people are, like, you know, main front bench politics, as it's called. Front benchers, you know. For example, the front benchers today are Boris Johnson, Jeremy Corbyn, and Jo Swinson. She's the Liberal Democrat.
What does front bench mean?
Well, in the House of Commons...
Oh, okay.
They're all benches. You know, you've seen the House of Commons. Mm-hmm. They're all benches.
Yeah.
And everyone who's sitting on the front...
If you've ever seen Poldark, you know what he's talking about.
Well, if you've ever seen C-SPAN, I think parliamentary sessions come on C-SPAN over here. If you've ever seen a rowdy parliament session, you know, you've seen the green floor, carpeted, green-backed benches.
My old boss, who was really into just, like, government and politics used to watch British Parliament all the time, just, like, recreationally.
Yeah, well, he watched it on C-SPAN, yeah, and I remember him coming to me one day and saying, those guys are just all over the place, aren't they?
That's so exciting to watch.
Those guys are so exciting. They get so riled up. They get so rowdy.
What do you guys think about Dominic's Texas accent, by the way?
My impression of saying he's God rest his soul. He's gone now. Yeah. But you know, that's what he came to me. He goes, oh, those guys get riled up. Those guys get so riled up.
Yeah. Oh, they're so passionate.
So passionate. Yeah. But, you know, and I was just like, yeah, that's how it goes, you know, because usually traditionally as you're walking in, or the governing party, which is the Prime Minister and his party, which was, because Parliament no longer exists, there's no MPs anymore for this duration.
Okay, so before we
continue on, yeah,
we need to back up.
We need to back up. There's going to be a general election in about a week's time.
Right.
On the 12th of December, 2019, which is kind of a little bit unprecedented because who has an election in December?
Yeah.
Usually voters don't do that, you know. Mm-hmm. There's generally the rule is...
Wasn't Brexit voted for in like a December?
That wasn't a general election.
No,
that was just a referendum.
I mean, wasn't that a vote that didn't it take place around?
I can't remember. I think it was something around December, yeah.
Like in the winter or something? I
could
be totally off.
And because of that, there's this whole mess. It's had a massive knock-on effect.
Yeah, so kind of explain for Americans what this election that they've just called, because it doesn't, in Britain, it works sort of similarly, like if everything's happy and whatever, then the person...
everything's happy,
then the person that is in Parliament, the person that's Prime Minister, goes on to be it for how long? He can do it,
I think there's no term limit on it. As long as the party is in, and as long as the party's happy to have them as leader, because it could be a man or a woman.
Right.
they can go on indefinitely without a general election. They can, it's every 5 years is like a general election. That's the rule of thumb.
Okay, so that's what I meant. Like every 5 years.
Every 5 years. And there was one scheduled for 2022.
Okay. But what can happen in Britain
is they can call one whenever they want.
Which is what just happened.
Which is what just happened.
Yeah.
And this was like a tactic because this is all Brexit motivated. There's an impasse on the Brexit withdrawal agreement. You know, they keep asking the European Union for more time to negotiate a deal, but there's no deal.
So quickly, just in case anybody listening doesn't know
has
what
no
Brexit
idea what Brexit is. It was something that there was a referendum in 2016.
Seems like a while ago now, yeah.
When there was calls for Britain to leave the EU. Which is the European Union. It's been in the EU since 1973. Something like that.
Right.
Around 1972, 73. I'm not sure on the dates. But we've been part of Britain's been part of the European Union since then. And, you know, that means...
And the European Union's basically a larger government.
Yeah, there's about 12 member states, I think. Yeah, it's a larger government. And they've got a European Parliament.
Right.
And, you know, everything is kind of governed from Brussels in Belgium.
So in that way...
So, you know, France, Spain, Germany, the Netherlands, Italy, Belgium...
So for me to understand
I think Denmark's part of it too, I'm not sure.
In my mind, I sort of compare it to the United States in a way.
Yes.
Where each of these European countries is sort of acting like a state.
It's a member state, yes.
They have their own
Britain,
government.
Yeah.
They have their own government, but then they are governed above that by the European Union. Just like in the United States, we have state governments.
Yeah.
But we're largely governed by the federal government, which is just the United States government.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like that.
Sort of like that. And, you know, France, Spain, Germany, Ireland, Italy, all them, they're part of the and Britain right now is part of the EU.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything's working fine. You know, everyone can cross borders, you know, and can go live in this country and go live in that country,
right.
and which was
can
work there and everything, you know, without any kind of visa or trouble. But then there was calls from, I think it was like Nigel Farage, who ironically is a member of the European Parliament. He's not even an MP in the UK.
Yeah.
Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson, who was mayor of London at the time, decided, oh yes, we're sending 12 million, or we're sending 360 million. No, not 12 million. That's nothing. We're sending 350 million to the EU, and we're not getting anything back.
Yeah.
And
meaning what?
And
what
with
do they
that,
want to get back?
No, and we can send. If we leave the EU, we'll have that 350 million and we can send it to the NHS.
Oh, right.
Which was all a big lie.
Yeah. So just after... So the people kind of got behind this, right?
The people got behind the bus because they drove around the country on a bus. And what happened is David Cameron, who was then Prime Minister, head of the Tory government in charge, said, right then, we'll you know, it was a political thing. We'll have a referendum, and I'm pro Remain. We'll remain in the EU, and all these leavers like Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage and whoever else is, like, you know, in the Tory party who was
well, at first
going for
David Cameron was for leaving.
He was for leaving, but then he decided, oh, I can score points with this because everyone's going to want to remain in the EU,
right?
And it looked like that. But I think it was a sort of like landslide because of the lies that this bus and the Boris bus told.
Right.
Of, oh yeah, we're going to, you know, we'll close our borders, and, you know, there's a lot, and, you know, it just kind of like, it was around the same time as the Trump got into power and everything, you know, it was the same sort of climate.
Yeah.
And so what happened then is that David Cameron resigned because it was like everyone wanted to leave the EU, and, oh, you know, this wasn't supposed to happen.
Right.
And, you know, there was people who'd voted leave that didn't want to vote leave or just didn't care. You know, they were like, oh, well, I didn't think it would happen. I just voted for a laugh. Because it was like almost 100% turnout for voting.
I remember all over Twitter people were saying, oh, I just voted that, like, just to see what would happen.
See what would happen, and look what happened.
And they were like, I didn't really want to leave.
You know, I didn't really want to leave, you know, because, you know, now everybody's going, yeah, if we leave, you're not going to get this, you're not going to get that anymore. Stuff isn't going to be regulated. And everybody's like, yeah, we want to get back to taking our country back, all this kind of stuff.
And, traveling amongst other European countries will
be harder.
As easy, not quite as cheap.
Not quite as cheap either.
But
so now,
but it came
but they
out,
can't, you know, Theresa May tried.
It came out that all this money that they were supposedly saving or were going to put into the NHS, they said, oh, well, yeah, that's not really going to happen, didn't they?
Nigel Farage went on the, you know, after the day after the vote was counted, he went on BBC Breakfast or something and said, oh, so yeah, all that millions that was going to the EU, it's going to go to the NHS. And he was like, oh, well, no, actually, no. And he was like, no, you said it was going to go. And it was like, oh, yeah, that's strictly true. And it was just kind of like, yeah, this is when the mess happened.
Yeah.
It's been delay after delay after delay. Article 50 has been triggered by Theresa May. She's gone. She's no longer Prime Minister. Boris Johnson got in.
So after David Cameron resigned, came Theresa
May, and she couldn't do anything, you know. She couldn't, because it was like dithering and dathering between Brussels, and it's just kind of like,
she was for Remain, though, wasn't she?
I think she was, yes. But she was like, I'm going to do what the people want me to do, but she never did.
Yeah.
She's on the backbenches now, which
takes
me back to what I was talking about, the front bench politics is where people are on the front benches or in the cabinet, you know, and they're more visible, and the back benches are up on the top, and they're still MPs. They've still managed to hold on to their seat because it's elected by their constituency, which is like, I don't know who Boris Johnson is MP of. I think he's MP for like Harrow or something. I don't know. You know, like a constituency in London somewhere. I think Jeremy Corbyn is MP for Islington North. Something anyway. But anyway, then that's how they get elected into Parliament. And so that's what I mean by front benching politics. You know, she's now backbenching, and you know, she's like no one anymore. You know. But yeah, what you were going to say something?
I don't know.
But yes, now it's been all this dithering and dathering, and you know, Labour of like, well, you know what? There's no confidence in this government. You know, Boris has got in. He's not doing anything.
Oh, that's what I was going to say. So Theresa May, basically with the Tories,
the Conservative Party,
they ousted her, right?
They ousted her. She eventually had to resign because as leader of the party.
And so then explain then how it's determined who becomes prime minister then, because
by the Conservative people, by the people in the Conservative Party.
So the British public had no vote. British public
have
Boris Johnson being prime minister.
No vote in. You know, he's very much unelected because he was elected by his own party, you know, basically.
So basically
elected leader of the party, and whoever's in government at that time and is leader of the party is prime minister, you know.
Right. So people in the party, they just put their own names forward.
They can put their own names forward,
and then the party just has a vote amongst themselves.
A vote amongst themselves,
okay.
Yeah. So it looks kind of, you know, crazy. Because it's like, you're right, you know, it's unelected who this guy is, but really it's supposed to be about the party doing stuff.
Yeah.
Rather than the man.
Americans out there, you may remember Boris Johnson from, what was it, during the Olympics, I think it was.
God.
It was when he was mayor of
London.
It was a video that went viral. He was mayor of London at the time during the 2012 Olympics. And he was on some kind of
zip wire.
Yeah, like a zip line.
With British flags and
they sent him
zipping down
from one side supposedly to the other.
And he got stuck in the middle. Yes. which is pretty much what his political career is doing now.
And he was just hanging there with the flags. I mean, you probably saw that online because it was absolutely everywhere at the time. And everybody made fun of it because it was just ridiculous.
It was just ridiculous.
The
And he
mayor
was
of London
hanging
just
there.
hanging
He was just hanging there for like, he hung there for like almost half an hour before someone bothered to get him down.
And he was just waving the flags. Like...
And I bet everybody wishes they'd stayed up there now. But yeah.
But so he became leader of the Conservative Party. And then what happened?
And then he was prime minister, you know.
Well, he was prime minister. But what now has led up to this call for...
Well, it's just him dithering and dathering over things. You know, I'm not going to get into the specifics of it, but he's just been jousting with Brussels, and he's like, "Oh, it's oven ready. It's oven ready. The deal. We've got this deal, and we just need to push it through. We just need to push it through. It's oven ready. Brexit is oven ready. We'll be out. We'll be out. We're getting out next year." And it's like nothing's happening. There's nothing ready. Yes, and so he triggered an election. He goes, "Oh well, Labour want, you know, if you Labour think we're so bad at what we're doing, we'll have an election, and I'll gain a landslide. We'll gain a landslide again."
Yeah.
And basically, Labour were like dithering on that, saying, "No, we don't want an election until the people are ready. We're not ready." But then all of a sudden, it was, "We're ready."
Right.
Because Jeremy Corbyn is very left wing.
Because
he wants to. The Labour manifesto is they want to renationalise everything. Which means trains, you know, like the National Health Service.
Mm-hmm.
There's trains. Everything's going to be taken away from the private sector, basically.
Right.
That was previously government run.
Which some people like and some people don't, right?
Everyone who's like a hard left who preferred the nationalization of everything is like, yes, get in Corbyn, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, all the Tories are like, no, we've got to make money, capitalism, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and there's the trade deal with the US is pretty much being based on the NHS. Because, you know, we're going to have to renegotiate a trade deal with the US now because we're leaving the EU.
Right.
Whereas it would have been it was already done for the UK when we were in the EU.
Yeah.
It's getting confusing, yes. But anyway, back to the election.
But so
it's a snap general election, basically.
So the Conservatives were a bit hesitant to call the election, but it could work to their favor, or it could be totally...
Well, it could be a total disaster. I mean, at this point, I'm not sure who's going to get in, because Corbyn and Labour, they're kind of like, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on with them that's just kind of making them a little bit, you know, like, are they strong enough to get in?
Right.
People are thinking, oh yeah, Labour are gonna get in. We've had Tories now for 10, 15 years now. We're done with them, you know? Labour are gonna get in. I mean, Liberal Democrats, who are the other party, of the big three, as I call them. Joe Swinson is campaigning for Liberal Democrats. It's like, it's not going to happen. You know, they've...
Have they ever been in power?
Not since 1922.
Oh, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But, I mean, it's still interesting to have a big third party, because we still don't really have a big third party.
I say that, right, but they have sort of been in power in the last... in the 2010 election, the Tories didn't have enough of a majority, so they had to team up with the Liberal Democrats to do a deal with the Liberal Democrats to get past the post, because it's a first past the post system. It's like, you know, when the numbers come in, whoever's got as many, you know, all the seats, all the members of parliament who've been voted for all over the country, it's like it adds up to how many blues, how many reds, how many yellows. What red's Labour, blue is Conservatives.
Okay.
Whereas it's switched over here, you know.
Yeah.
So they didn't have it. No party had a majority. And the Liberal Democrats did really well. I think Nick Clegg was leading them at that time.
By the way, just for Americans listening, who don't know anything about British politics, Liberal Democrats are not particularly liberal, right? They're more
No.
they're a bit like the Libertarians Party over here, would you say?
I'm not really that sure. Yeah, I mean,
because to us, I hear the words liberal Democrat and I think
they're kind of
thinking more like a Bernie Sanders, more a progressive sort of wing of government or ideology. And they're
I'm not sure.
are
I
they?
think they're more central.
Right.
They're more central and Labour are more left of centre.
Right.
And whereas Conservatives are more right of centre.
Right.
There's also the Brexit Party.
Right.
Which has been formed by Nigel Farage, and I think Mo Mowlam or someone is in it.
Which is sort of like the tea equivalent.
Oh,
to
no,
the
not
tea
Mo
party
Mowlam.
over here.
Anne Widdecombe, I think, is in it. Anne Widdecombe, that's it. I don't know who Mo Mowlam is in now. I think she might be dead, actually. I don't know why that came up.
I'm sure there's a party for all dead people.
Yes. But
dead
anyway, Anne
politicians.
Widdecombe's joined, she's crazy, she's joined the Brexit Party, and, it's just kind of like, well, it's just like she's a bit crazy, but, she's joined the Brexit Party, and when I had my postal vote come through, apparently there's a candidate for where my old town, so I was just like, what? They've actually got a number of seats,
Yeah.
or a number of candidates,
We're trying to be as
layman as possible.
as politically correct as possible.
No, I mean,
we're trying not to show too much bias in one way or the other because we know that you guys listening, you could be conservative, you could be liberal. We're trying not to be political on this. We're
trying not to be political.
Though
no.
we are rather political people.
We're rather political people,
privately.
And we're talking about politics right now.
Well, we're talking about government.
Government.
Yeah.
We're talking about big government. Corbyn, anyway, Labour want to get in, and Corbyn wants to nationalise everything. If I'm Prime Minister, I'm going to nationalise the lot,
So, for Americans, Jeremy Corbyn is sort of like Bernie Sanders.
Yes, he's pretty much very much like Bernie Sanders, yeah.
They're saying, he's socialist, he wants to turn this country into a socialist country and blah, blah, blah. All the same kind of
stuff. Well, I mean,
stuff.
and the far right wing are saying he's a big communist and wants to turn
right. Yeah,
turn everything,
Right, they've gone a step.
He's a communist and he's an anti-Semite.
Oh,
And there's a lot of anti-Semitism rumours being flung around the Labour Party, which I don't know why.
Yeah.
Really, I don't see it.
We're not really up on what.
We're not up on what's been going on here, and we haven't done the research, but it doesn't seem to be any hard evidence coming out, about that. Jo Swinson, she's the youngest leader of a political party in a long time. I don't think she's going to get. They're going to get in.
She's the leader of the Liberal
Democrats. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So it's just kind of like I don't foresee them getting, but you never know.
Right.
This could shock us. We could be in for a shock come 12th of December when the polling stations close, and we've got David Dimbleby on the BBC waiting for the news to come through, and Liberal Democrats landslide.
You're saying December 12th. So this
December 12th, yeah.
So this podcast is airing on Tuesday, so that means on Thursday.
On Thursday, we may have a new government in the House of Commons. Or it could be Boris and the Tories again for another 5 years.
Because if the Conservatives win, then Boris, being leader of the Conservatives, will just continue to be Prime Minister.
He'll continue to be Prime Minister,
and he'll be vindicated, and he'll be like, okay, look, the people want me in.
Yes, the people want me in unless his party stab him in the back and elect someone else.
Would that happen, though, if the people vote for Conservatives? Why would that happen?
It might, for whatever reason, for whatever he's doing at that time. There's been a couple of no confidence motions against Jeremy Corbyn in Labour. Mm-hmm. People have tried to oust him.
Yeah.
And it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
They've they've kept him
There's just
in,
no
you know.
better option.
Yeah. I mean, they did it with Theresa May. I mean, Theresa May says, "Oh, if we don't get this Brexit deal, I'm resigning. That's it." You know?
Yeah.
And she had to stick to that.
Right.
You know, because everybody was just sick of her then.
I do like that about British politics. You know, if something doesn't go the way that a politician's promised, then they resign.
Well, they resign and they run away like David Cameron did. I mean, he caused all this mess. This Brexit mess, you know, whatever side you're on, it's still a mess. It's down to him. He didn't have to call that referendum, you know. That was a political play that went away, you know.
So just quickly, before we wrap this up, then explain to everyone how you are able to vote being over here.
Well, you can vote by proxy, which is you have a trusted member of your family or a trusted friend who you can get to vote for you. Go to a polling station and, you know, do it for you. You know, there's all sorts of like procedures. Or you can vote by post, which is what I did. Vote by mail, which is, you know, they send you the ballot paper, you put your check mark in or cross in for the candidate you want. You seal it all up and you send it back. I mean, it's free of charge. But I have heard that if you're an expat for more than 15 years, your vote's done, mate.
Is that true,
No,
though?
that's true.
Is that, I mean, that's not just myth or like scare tactics to keep expats from voting? Because I can't see, I mean, if you're still a British citizen, how can that be
Well,
true?
you can move back. That's what they're saying, you know. After 15 years, it's like you've lost your right to vote.
I mean, don't take that as hardcore fact because
I think it is. I think it sounds like something they do.
I can't imagine that's true. Although the voting by proxy seems crazy to me. I can never imagine that going down in America. Like, well, choose your, you know, send your grandma to vote for you if you want. Send your best friend. I don't know. There might be.
We haven't done any research on that aspect of things.
If we have any,
because there's American expats out there, how did they vote in elections?
Well, it's the same thing. They send the ballot and you just vote.
It's a postal vote?
Yeah.
The vote by proxy, surely.
I mean, the vote by proxy option came about for you because they weren't sure if when the general election was going to be called for and whether you would have time for them to send you the ballot and then you to send it back and them to be able to count your vote. So they were like, you can just send somebody to vote for you. Yeah. Whereas that doesn't happen over here. There's plenty. We know when our elections are going to be. There's plenty of time.
It's every 4 years, isn't it?
Yeah. There's time. We know what the date is. Like nothing like that whole sudden election that doesn't happen. Yeah. You know, so I can't imagine a situation where in America we would say, send your best friend Maxine down to vote in your place.
Well, it's not just like, oh, you pick someone and they say, okay, I'll do it. You've got to like let the local council or whatever know, you know, you've got to let the government know that you're doing that, you know. Yeah. It's not like, and you know, I nominate my best mate, you know, or nominate my dad to do it, or nominate my uncle, whatever.
The only person I would trust to vote for me is my mom.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think...
I mean, I've got a couple of people. I mean, my dad, who's also an expat, he lives in Spain, was talking about, I might do the vote by proxy. Because they sent me a letter before they sent me the ballot saying, we urge you to pick a proxy because it's a snap general election. We want you to, like, be able to get your vote in on time and stuff. So someone who's living here can do it for you on polling day. Right. Because 12th of December from like 8 a.m. till 10 p.m., that's when the polls are open. Right. People are going in, doing their casting their vote.
And just in case there's any British people listening who live elsewhere in the world and you just got there, you just moved out of Britain, you need to sign up for this.
Well, it's too late now.
Well, no, I know, but they won't for future elections.
For future elections, you definitely need to sign up for this, yeah.
They don't just automatically send it to you. You have to register for them to send you the ballots.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess they could register right now for this election for a proxy vote, but I'm not really too sure if the deadline is reached. I think it might have been today, actually, the deadline was.
It seemed like it took a while when you registered to vote by mail or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Seemed like it was a while before you got
governmental elections and everything.
Information about it. I can't remember, but if we have any Americans living elsewhere in the world who vote by mail and who happen to know whether we have a proxy system, do let us know.
Let us know.
Because I find that just crazy, and I can't imagine it being deemed acceptable in the United States. You know, they're so crazy about voting laws, and you have to have your ID and all of that kind of stuff. Over here, I just can't see that.
I can't remember. It was a church hall I voted in. I remember going to a church hall to vote, and they have like little stalls and booths set up, and you go in and you go, your name. I can't remember now because it's been a while since I've been there, and part of like an election. You go in and you tell them, and they give you the ballot paper, and they tell you to go into the booth, and you shut the curtain, and you vote, put it in the thing, and then you come out and you just drop it in the box.
Right.
And that's it, you're done.
Right.
I don't remember having to show any ID. Maybe I did. Maybe I showed my national insurance number, card or whatever, but I can't remember right now. But yeah. Maybe later I'll remember.
But yeah, so hope you guys found this information interesting.
Yes.
And
we waffled on a bit. But
if you're British, do go vote on Thursday. Be sure to go and vote, whichever way you're going to vote. And I don't really even feel like it's necessary to say that to British people, is it? Because
go out and vote.
You guys have such a high
Well, we do,
turnout.
and young voters too, people who are young, I mean, of course you're going to get people who don't care, ooh,
Yeah.
don't care who's in it, doesn't affect me,
Right.
but it does. It's politics, it's defined. Everything's defined by politics, really, at the end of the day. But yeah, go out and vote. Go out and vote for.
Vote on Thursday.
Go out and vote for whoever you want to vote for.
And we will have recorded Thursday's podcast ahead of time, so we won't be talking about the election there. But if you follow us on Instagram, I'm sure we will probably be talking about it there, or Twitter, or Facebook, probably.
Follow us on Instagram for the latest updates.
Yeah, if you're interested in
Erica will be counting the ballots as they come in.
Well, last time, how did we do that?
Because I got a friend who works for the council, and he counts the ballots. The last time, last general election, he said, "Oh, I'm on ballot counting duty tonight."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Oh yeah." So he's like, and in Wales they've got the Plaid Cymru Party, which is the Wales party. In Scotland, the SNP, which is the Scottish National Party, which is all for independence of Scotland and everything. They've got some seats
for Scotland to become independent of the UK.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's all for another discussion.
All for another discussion, all the different political parties.
But yeah, if you're interested in this, when Brexit happened, I can't remember how we did it, but we hooked up into BBC Live somewhere, and we were watching it like all unfold, and and I'm sure we'll do something similar this time again. So we will try to keep you guys updated on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or somewhere. So be sure you're following us on all the social medias.
Yes. Follow us on all the social medias. Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
Goodbye now.
Bye.